Earlier on the news, we told you that Nigeria's military high command has dismissed the ruling National Industrial Court of Nigeria's ruling that nullified the Armed Forces of Nigeria over a case that mandates personnel to serve for a minimum of 15 years before resignation. And we're glad to let you know that the National Secretary, retired members of Nigerian Armed Forces, Roy Okhidevbie, joins us now to talk about it. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the news.
Thank you so much. There's so much echo anyway.
Sorry about that. We'll just try to make meat of the conversation and beat you by. So what's your view on the HTACO's rule that compels soldiers to serve 15 years before resigning?
Well, there's so much echo and I can't really get you, but if we are talking about the 15-year ultimatum and the legal battles all around tenure of service for military personnel, now the military on its own is already clogged with so much of responsibility and the weight it carries of disgruntled soldiers. You know, so if you really look at it, so many people are working in the military as if it's a slave-driven organization. So I would advise, as I've already told people, this service, if you put it to be like 5 years compulsory, and you pay the entry fee of 300,000 naira as take-home salary, and you give them an enrollment fee of 5 million naira. I'm very sure that you will have the best army in the world.
Okay, so does this now mean that this particular provision, the HTACO's, is unconstitutional and violates fundamental rights? Because the Nigerian Military High Command seems to disagree with that.
I didn't hear you.
Okay, sorry about the echo. So what I'm just asking is, do you also think, based on your response, that this HTACO's provision is unconstitutional and violates fundamental rights?
Wow. There is so much echo.
All right, so we are going to probably rectify that issue from your end. Hopefully our engineers are on that, and we'll try as much as possible to bring you back to conclude on this matter. Let's move on. Now, the Nigerian Bar Association has instituted a suit against the Inspector General of Police over the tinted glass permit policy, describing it as unlawful and a violation of fundamental rights. The association, at its pre-conference National Executive Council meeting in Enugu on August 23, resolved to challenge the policy introduced in April 2025 by Kayode Egbetokun, the IGP. The policy, which was initially built to take off on June 1 before being shifted to October 2, requires motorists to obtain annual permits for tinted glasses through a digital portal. Paul Ananaba, chairman of the NBA section on public interest and development law, said the directive is fraught with transparency concerns. And now to help us make sense of this, we're joined by a legal practitioner, Elvis Sia. Elvis, thank you so much for jumping on this conversation.
Thank you for the news.
So help us understand how the new tinted glass permit policy becomes unlawful and a violation of fundamental rights.
You have to look at, first you have to look at the history. The law the permit for vehicles in Nigeria was made by the military. Two of that legislation, it's because obviously the framers of that legislation or that decree, knew that it was going to be inconsistent with constitutional right to privacy and freedom of movement, and so they suspended the constitution. With the coming into effect of the 1999 Constitution, those provisions, are now largely inconsistent with the Constitution. And let's be very realistic. It's a very archaic legislation, and the attempt to revive the policy is nothing but more than another avenue to exploit Nigerians. If you look at the system that has been designed for this purpose, the payments for the permit is not going to the federation account. It's not going to the single treasury account that has been designed by the federal government. It's going to, this is a private entity-driven system to extort Nigerians. Globally, the regulation of tinted permit is, is not outrightly banned in many countries. And most of the countries where these vehicles are manufactured, the tints are made in line with regulations that exist in those countries. And the general consensus in terms of regulation globally is that you allow, that's why you see a lot of the factory fitted, usually not absolute. You can still see inside of the vehicle,
okay,
based on the regulations in many countries. So it's an anachronistic policy, and shouldn't have a place in the current.
Okay, Elvis, I understand. You said that the policy is archaic, but then this policy requires that motorists would get a permit for their tinted glass yearly. It's like a yearly renewal or a yearly ritual, and that's not different from car document renewals that we do. So, what is the difference between this policy and what already exists with the other car documents?
This is, like I said earlier, this is purely a revenue, private sector led process to make money, and not necessarily to use it for security. Or Nigerian police has come out to say is the reason behind this policy. Because, I mean, why do you want to be doing a few months ago, or last year or 2 years ago, they came up with the idea that you have to renew your proof of ownership, every year, and it's just meant to. It's basically meant to extort people. Why should you be renewing your proof of ownership? Once you have your proof of ownership, that should serve for all purposes, unless there has been a change in the ownership of the vehicle. So this is another level of attempt made or a system created by the police to just, extort motorists.
But then this particular Elvis,
value in my view, because
Elvis, but then this policy, as it's been created, is actually tied to a government website, a portal, posap.gov.ng. So why did you say or raise concerns about the possibility of this process not being transparent?
If you have gone to try to start through the system, you will see that payment goes into an account that is not the federal government account. It goes into I've forgotten the name of that account. It's more like, there are so many vendors these days who come up with all sorts of ideas to generate revenue for themselves, and and pretending to be solving the problem for the country, or helping institutions like the police to solve a problem. It's a huge chunk of whatever comes through the process for themselves, and this is not really different from that. Which is why one is worried about transparency issues with respect to. I mean, if we deal with federal government agencies and parastatals every day, and if you are making payments, it goes straight to the single treasury account. You make all these payments. You can do it with your phones, with your laptops, and these monies, directly go into a government recognized account. But on this particular private go to.
All right, we seem to be having a bit of a glitch, but then we still are able to draw sense from what legal practitioner Elvis Asia has shared with us as regards this. Let's quickly go back to the story as regards the Nigerian military dismissing a court ruling as regards how many years our military personnel should serve before the person has been given the recourse to retire. And earlier on, we had the National Secretary for the Retired Members of Nigerian Armed Forces, Roy Okhidevbie, join us, and we're glad to have him back. Thank you so much, Mr. Okhidevbie, for still staying with us. Earlier on, I was asking if you also agree with the postulation that the HTACOS provision is unconstitutional and violates our fundamental rights.
Well, one thing that thank you for setting this up right now. One thing that we all should agree with is that the army is set up, the police is set up, and then once you buy your form or you apply to join, you are joining as per the current regulatory status of the rank and file that you are coming in through. If you are going through the Nigerian Defense Academy or through the Depot Zaria intake, everyone has, even the Short Service Commission, everyone has how it is captured. But if the court is coming in, because in everywhere in the world, the judiciary can regulate, you know, and especially if it follows under fundamental human rights of the citizen of a country, you know, so it is due to be reviewed. And I think Nigeria should begin to look at the youth parameters. If we have people serve for 5 years and they are allowed to leave, and you pay like 300K and you give them like 5 million naira for onboarding fee, you will have a lot of people coming into the military. And after 5 years, if they are allowed to leave, you will have a lot of people working as citizens of this country with a good record of military service, able to correlate and support the insecurity situation in the country.
So are you now saying that the Armed Forces Act should be amended to better cater for military personnel?
The Armed Forces Act is being amended every day. It is just because this is one of those that does not cover a lot of people. We have the security debarment allowance. That one was reviewed and certain set of retirees were paid. And when it got to our turn, they are paying it in piecemeal, you know, and we are asking for a review till date. We have not seen that review, but the president just approved certain amount of money for military generals. Was he not paid? Will he not be paid? You know, so many things come from executive order, so many things come from bylaws, you know, so there are different ways to achieve it if you know that it will give you a blanket support for motivated soldiers and crushing of insecurity and insurgency in the country.
So having said this, Roy, does it concern you now that the military high command might ignore the NIC verdict citing the Armed Forces Act?
The military command ignoring it is not new. I believe they will ignore it because the military, as we speak, is tailored towards the body language of the political system. Do you recall that there was an Inspector General of Police in Major-General Buhari's tenure that was asked to report to Benue State? He didn't go and nothing happened. You know, so what we have today, it's a give and take between the military and the politicians, and they are just doing a kind of cashing out because the politicians don't want a coup d'etat. The military wants to exit into a better life. And all of those people in the helms of affair, they are relating properly with the politicians, while the rank and file suffer and die every day.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Roy Okhidevbie, for sharing your thoughts with us on the news.
It's always a pleasure.
Of course. Let's now go on a very short break. When we return, we'll touch on our political stories and some others. Don't go away.